right, so next up we are going to have Joanna speaking on behalf of Cynthia Sakarajawar. Cynthia is speaking coalition.
Silver Spring Justice Coalition is a Montgomery County-based organization made up of individuals and organizations that aims to reduce the presence of police in our communities, eliminate violence and harm by police, establish transparency and accountability, and redirect public funds towards community needs. When Anton's law went into effect in October 2021, SSJC began requesting the misconduct records from police officers who have killed or harmed people in this county, including the officer who killed Robert White, the man whose killing prompted the funding of the Silver Spring Justice Coalition. We learned through this process that the release of these records was going to be delayed because the Montgomery County Police Department was negotiating a side agreement, a memorandum of agreement with our police union, the FOP, that was going to obligate the police department to give the union and the officer whose records we were requesting 10 days notice before releasing the records. As a result, it took us months to get records that we were supposed to get in 30 days. Then we learned that because of this memorandum of agreement, our police department was refusing to release records requested by one member of our community because the FOP used its 10-day notice period to sue the county, arguing that these records should not be released and raising challenges to Anton's law itself. Adding insult to injury, our county attorney, the same county attorney who signed off on this illegal memorandum of agreement, consented to a motion filed by the FOP to keep the entire lawsuit under seal. We gathered here last year to support the efforts of the MCJPA and others to intervene in the lawsuit and to fight to keep the lawsuit open to the public. And we are gathering again because this lawsuit is still ongoing. And moreover, the memorandum of agreement that allowed the suit to happen in the first place is still in effect. Our county attorney, Mark Elrich, can and should order his police department to withdraw from the agreement that made this lawsuit possible. We and many others have repeatedly asked him to terminate the agreement, and he has ignored these requests. We again call on Mark Elrich to end this illegal and harmful agreement, and we call on him to make sure his county attorney's office zealously defends against this lawsuit. It is shameful that our county is leading the effort to undermine Anton's law, this critical piece of police reform legislation. We hope that everyone will continue to pay close attention to this case and reach out to our county executive to make sure he knows we do not want this memorandum of agreement. Montgomery County should lead on expanding police transparency, not on undermining it.
Joanna and Cynthia for explaining why we are also in front of the Montgomery County Executive Office building. So before we get to our next speaker, let's do another chant. Let's bring this energy up. Hey, hey, ho, ho, police misconduct's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, police misconduct's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, police misconduct's got to go. Thank you guys. So up next we have Delegate Gabe Acevero. Delegate Acevero was a community activist before being elected to represent Maryland's 39th district, which covers parts of Gaithersburg and Rockville. He was the original sponsor for Anton's Law and is a tireless fighter for police accountability and transparency. Let's have a round of applause for Delegate Acevero.
Good morning. I know it's a little bit cold outside. I know we're a little bit chilly, but if it's one thing we all are, is fired up for police transparency and accountability. Am I right? Am I right? We are fired up for police transparency and accountability, and that's precisely why we're here this morning, because we recognize that Anton's Law was and still is a significant piece of legislation that was not only worth passing, but is worth defending. Because the Fraternal Order of Police, particularly Lodge 35 here in Montgomery County, time and again have been trying to get the courts, the state courts, to do what they couldn't get the Maryland state legislature to do, and that is to weaken Anton's law. And we're here this morning not only to add our voice to the collective of folks that are calling not just to protect Anton's law, but to ensure that we're going further on a lot of other important police transparency and accountability measures. And so we know that this case is before the courts and it will be deliberated, but we are here to demand of our county executive, Mark Elridge, that he end this agreement that with the Fraternal Order of Police that seeks to shield corrupt cops, those who engage in abusive actions, and those who don't think that they are accountable to the law. We are here to demand that County Executive Mark Elridge do the right thing, particularly by Black and brown communities, and end this agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 35. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Because that's what we like to see. We want to see real police transparency and accountability here in Montgomery County. We don't want to see performative wokeness and progressivism. We want an intentional actions by our elected officials to ensure that people who are responsible, who we pay for patrolling our streets, are held accountable. There is transparency, and that we know who are policing our streets. And if there are abusive cops, that they are off our streets. Am I right? Yes. Am I right? Yes. And so this morning we're here to defend Anton's law, and we're also here to raise awareness, because not many folks may know what the Fraternal Order of Police is doing. And this is how they operate, in secrecy and behind closed doors, to effectively undermine the advocacy and the work that so many constituents, so many impacted communities, so many legislators like myself who were instrumental in passing this law named for Anton Black. But we're here to say that we're going to continue to show up as many times as we need to defend Anton's law. Am I right? Yes. Am I right? Yes. We're going to show up today, we're going to show up the next time, and we're going to keep showing up so that Mark Elridge, the county attorney's office, and the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 35, know that we see what you're doing. We're going to call you out. We're going to fight you everywhere we can, in the courts, in the legislature, and at the ballot box. But we're going to get transparency and accountability for corrupt and racist cops. Am I right? Yes. Am I right? Yes. I am here because my constituents know the importance of police transparency and accountability. I represent a working class district, one of the most diverse districts in this county and in our state. And time again, I have constituents who are having interactions with law enforcement that are less than professional, less than what you would expect for civil liberties and civil rights, less than what we would expect in terms of equity of outcome. And Anton's law was one of those significant pieces of legislation to right the wrongs, specifically around transparency. Because too many cops are being shielded by their personnel records when we know that they've been engaging in abusive behavior with impunity. And the only way that we deal with corruption and abusive behavior is by shedding light on it. Because the best disinfectant for corruption is more transparency, not less. And anytime an individual or a group of individuals or organizations are working this hard to undermine transparency, it means that what they are doing is not only unconstitutional, but they are afraid that if the people find out, that they would be in trouble. And that's precisely why we're here today, because we all believe that the best disinfectant for corruption and abuse is more transparency. And that's exactly why we in the legislature passed Anton's law. It's exactly why I fought every single session to get it passed, because we understood that you can't have accountability without transparency. You can't have trust without transparency. relationship between law enforcement and the broader communities that they serve without transparency. So today, we are here to say to Mark Elrich, end that agreement. Not tomorrow, not next month, not next year. When do we want it? Now! When do we want it? Now! We want an end to that agreement that continues to shield abusive Montgomery County police officers, that the Fraternal Order of Police, an organization, if we want to be honest, is expressly anti-Black. It is an organization that has never advocated for the interests of Black and brown communities. And so it comes as a surprise and a shock to me that some elected officials will go above and beyond to not just get into agreements, but then defend those agreements with an organization that don't give a damn about Black and brown communities. But this has to end, and it will end, and it's precisely why we're here. We're going to continue to add our voices to the collective. We're going to continue to show up for the folks who wanted to be here but couldn't be here, but are impacted disproportionately by police abuse and a lack of transparency. Am I right? Yes. We are here for them. We are here for the family of Anton Black, who deserved answers, who deserved transparency and didn't get it. And we work with the coalition to pass Anton's law. We are here for them. Am I right? Yes. And we will continue to show up because we need people to know that the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 35, is attempting to undermine important legislation that we in the General Assembly passed. And we won't let them do it today. We won't let them do it next month. We won't let them do it anytime because we understand the importance of Anton's law. And when we talk about transforming a corrupt and racist policing system, it starts with transparency. Am I right? Yeah. So sisters and brothers, family, thank you all so much for being here. Let us continue to show up and to fight. And remember that while we must defend Anton's law, there is so much more that we still need to do on police accountability, particularly around ending no-knock warrants in our state. Am I right? Yes. Particularly around ending qualified immunity that shields these same corrupt and abusive cops from accountability in the courts. Am I right? Yes. And making sure that we are addressing a problem that we all know exists in our policing system, not just here in Montgomery County and in Maryland, but across this country. And that is white nationalism in law enforcement. It is time that we know who are policing our streets and what organization, if any, especially if it's white nationalists, that they are a part of, affiliated with, and support. And more importantly, we're going to ensure that we're protecting our young people, our juveniles, who often come into interactions with law enforcement and may not know their rights, but are certainly worthy of protection. We are going to protect juvenile justice this session and in future sessions. So sisters and brothers, thank you all so much. Solidarity, and we're going to continue to fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Aspero, for those powerful, incisive words. Okay, and our final speaker for today's rally and press conference is Sergio Espana, who is representing the Maryland Coalition for Justice and Police Accountability. He's also the Director of Engagement and Mobilization at the Maryland ACLU. Let's give it a hand for Sergio.
Thank you. And as always, it's impossible to follow Delegate Aspero. Thank you so much for your leadership over the years and for the powerful words to remind us that we are not giving up on this at all. We are only going to continue to push. So we at the ACLU of Maryland are members of the Organization for Justice and Police Accountability. And since its passage, Anton's law has faced persistent attacks as we described in Montgomery County, in Baltimore County, and very likely in several other counties in the state. And it's part of an intentional effort of basically ensuring that law enforcement doesn't have to follow the law. It's really as crude and as direct as that. So we're not giving up. We're excited for finally again to have our day in court. And also want to encourage us to continue to pressure when it comes to the state session that's about to begin on Wednesday. Maryland Coalition for Justice and Police Accountability will continue to resist these efforts and take these issues head on, in addition to defending against legislative attempts to undermine Anton's law and protections for children. MCJPA will introduce a bill to clarify that local governments have the authority to give their police accountability boards independent and very necessary investigatory powers. These powers are a key feature of successful oversight boards around the country, and they're instrumental in ensuring that our local PDs can serve and be truly independent and responsive as oversight bodies, which has been the initial intention from the very beginning with the coalition. And despite years of trying to undermine those efforts, we continue to make progress, and we're not giving up. And on that note, it's time to go into court to make sure that we keep the pressure and that we get justice. Thank you all very much.
Whose streets?
Our streets!
Whose streets?
Our streets!
Whose records?
Our
Whose
records!
records?
Our records! We actually have one more speaker. Please give a warm hand to Frankie, who is going to be reading remarks from Councilmember Kristen Mink, who represents Montgomery County's District 5. She was a community activist and now continues that important work to decriminalize our county's residents as a member of the Public Safety Committee. Please give a round of applause for Frankie.
Thank you all for being here. It's a little windy, as folks might have seen, but we know that those are the winds of change that have been howling for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years, for 200 years in this country, and they continue to howl for change. They howled for change in 2020, and they didn't stop now. And I have a statement from Councilmember Mink. I just want to say that she sends her solidarity and support, and wants to say that the spirit of Anton's law is clear, and frankly, I believe the letter of it is too. I hope the courts will agree. Regardless, the county should be prioritizing accountability and transparency demanded by the public with the passage of Anton's law, not undermining it, and undermining the hard-won efforts of historic policing reforms. Thank you all to the organizers of today's rally, being here in these very dangerous conditions, and for ensuring the public's eye stays on this hugely significant court case. Thank you so much, solidarity, and let's defend Anton's law.
Thank you, Frankie, and thank you, Councilmember Mink, for sending some remarks. And thank you again to everyone who came out on such a blustery, windy day. But as Frankie so succinctly put it, these are the winds of change. And so some folks will be able to speak once this concludes. And please see Nehemiah for some press. We're going to walk that way to defend Anton's law. And before we close out, we're going to do one more chant. It goes like this. Transparency is our demand. Release the records to our hands. Transparency is our demand. Release